Was on mute. Great. What's up, guys, and welcome to your match player rating for the Forest Newcastle match, where it finished Newcastle United 2, Nottingham Forest 1. Nottingham Forest 0. My God, 1. Guys, before we get into it, if you don't mind leaving a like on the video and subscribing to the channel if you are new, and let's jump into it and talk about how the match actually played out before we go into the player rating. So, off the bat, it started off very clear that Newcastle were going to be the aggressors. They were playing with a real high line up the pitch and really choking Forest into their own half. The defence was holding out extremely well for Forest. I thought the three centre-backs, the Niyakata, Worrell and McKenna, were dealing with everything that was coming in. The problem was the play out to the midfield. The midfield weren't picking the ball up and driving us forward out of our own half. We weren't really even getting any real counter-attack attacks coming through. And that was costing us, and that was just leaving the pressure sustained on the Forest back 3 or 5, as it was for most of the game, with the likes of Alan St. Maximum absolutely dominating down the left-hand channel, as I feared he could do. The pressure eventually got to Forest, and it was in the second half. And like I said, although in the first half Newcastle was sustaining pressure, they weren't really threatening enough and only had one clear-cut chance with Joe Linton. Apart from that, Forest were dealing very well with it, and it was a wonder goal that broke the deadlock just before the 60th minute, with Shah taking a shot from about 25 yards out in the kind of top left corner of the outside the box and sending a thunderbolt into the top left corner. Henderson, as well as he tried to cover that near post, not much he could have done about it. Then Forest tried to settle in, and then about 10 minutes later, I think on the 78th minute, they overloaded us down the left-hand side. The ball comes in, and Wilson was able to get in front of Niyakata to flick it around him. To me, it looked like it did spin off Niyakata's shin and then looped over Henderson to make it 2-0, and that was the game. So, it's some people in the chat saying a reality check. For me, it was expected. Let's be honest, Newcastle last season, as I was told from the guys in the chat earlier, only lost under Howe to Man City and Liverpool. And for 60 minutes, honestly, although we weren't making anything going forward, we looked absolutely solid in defence. Once that second goal went in, it was game over. What we're going to do, we're going to run through the players and give them a rating from 0 to 10. And we're going to obviously start with the goalkeeper. I'm going to say hi to a few of the guys in the office, hopefully in the chat. Hopefully you guys can all hear me. But let's start with Henderson. For me, Henderson, very commanding, very much like he was in the pre-season. Couple of good saves in the first half. Nothing really stretching him too much, but not much he could do for the goal. Overall, Henderson played solid. I'm giving him, I think, and I'll see what the guys in the chat say, but I think it's fair to give Henderson a 7 out of 10. I mean, he did concede 2 goals, but he couldn't have done much, especially on the first goal, and the second one looped over his head. He didn't have much chance, because I'm sure it deflected. I mean, if Wilson did actually put that in with that flick, then it was one hell of a finish. But yeah, overall for me, 7 for Henderson. I'm seeing a few 7s in the chat, so I'm thinking the chat is agreeing a bit with what I'm saying. I hope, at least. Okay, let's move on into the defence. And I think we'll start with... Shall we start with Worrell? Worrell, overall... Now, what was worrying about Worrell was he got booked quite early in the match for a little kind of check foul. I think it was on St. Maximus down the right-hand side. And I was worried early on that based on that yellow card, he wouldn't be as aggressive into the challenges, maybe pull out of a couple or so. But he actually played quite well. I mean, he wasn't amazing, but he did play quite well. He did get pulled out for the second goal as the cross came in. I feel like he found himself in between a rock and a hard place because he came out to cover Williams. The ball came in behind Williams down the flank. Worrell comes out across and didn't quite get to him, but as well wasn't there to block the cross. So find himself a bit in no man's land for me there. overall, he had a tough game because obviously St. Maximum is not a world-class player, but an outstanding player. And I think he made the work quite hard for him. So got to take into account Worrell got booked quite early on. But overall, I think we can give him a 6 out of 10. Not saying he had a bad game. Wasn't outstanding, but pretty solid overall. So, in fact, 6 feels a little harsh. The defense played well. I'm changing my mind. We're going with a 7. Guys in the chat, would you agree with a 7, or do you think a bit higher or lower? So I think a 7 is fair. 7 is fair. Let's move on to the other two centre backs, and let's talk about Niakata. Niakata, for me, I love this guy, and I'm going to be biased towards him. He does look like he's still lacking a bit of match sharpness. Came off with about 10 or so minutes to go as we changed the formation. He was blocking some lovely challenges and dealing with the crosses coming in quite well. But we still conceded 2 goals. You could argue for the second goal, he should have been more in front of Wilson. And you could tell that he was positioned wrongly because he had to slide in front of him to try and recover, which in essence meant he was out of position. And maybe the ball did unluckily deflect off his shin and spin into the top corner. But overall, I think with a few more games under his belt, he's going to be absolutely fine. But for me, harshly, I'll put him at fault, partly responsible for the second goal. He did make a couple of runs out of the defence, which was nice to see. But that was when we were 1-0 down and we were trying to push out. For me, it came a little, a bit too late in the game to allow for that to happen. So I think I'm going to give him a 6. I think a 6 is quite fair. Again, we conceded 2 goals. You have to take that into mind. But the second goal should have been stopped. Having a look at the chat, I don't think there's a few 4s in there. Someone's Stubbs is saying 4, 6 is too high. I don't think he was that bad. I don't think the 3 centre backs were bad at all. But for me, overall, it was the sustained pressure that eventually broke them. You got to understand, they had a hell of a workout today. A real hell of a workout. So we'll give him a 6. Let's move on to McKenna. McKenna is McKenna. He's very good, very solid. Initially, with the first goal, I was tempted to put the blame on Colback. But having watched the replays, I feel he could have done more to close the shot down. I feel he could have closed down Shah quicker and smelt the danger. You had Jesse Lingard, who was chasing Shah, trying to get level with him. And then you had Colback, who was just kind of watching it a bit and then switched on a second too late. And it was the same for McKenna. He didn't come forward enough to close the angle down a bit. I know it sounds a bit harsh, but I just feel that had he pushed forward a bit and maybe put Shah under a bit of pressure, because Shah got a free shot and we cannot afford to give free shots. 25 yards out, 5 yards out, it doesn't matter. This is the Premier League. You will get punished, and we did. So that would be my only contention with him. I felt the Newcastle had a lot of corners, and we were dealing with them very well. They have real tall, lanky centre-backs that were coming in, and the likes of McKenna was clearing the ball quite well. For me, though, the distribution from the defence into the midfield was where we struggled. But overall, we'll just give him a 6 out of 10. I think we can't go too high on the defence based on the fact that we did concede 2 goals. Let's go on to Tuffalo. Tuffalo, for me, if I'm being honest, I didn't notice him too much in the game. I don't know how the guys in the chat feel, but he was there in the right positions most of the time, but because it was quite easy to be in the right positions because we were playing the back 5. What I didn't see about him was him grabbing the ball and running forward. As Bruce subscribes to the channel, thank you very much, Bruce. Guys, don't forget you can subscribe as well completely for free. And I just feel like he played well defensively, which I wasn't expecting too much, but he wasn't bombing forward down the left-hand side. Now, you can't hold it against him personally because it was the whole team. Excuse me. With these, it's quite hard to do these player ratings because ideally what I would do is give a rating to the defensive unit, a rating to the midfield unit, and a rating to the attacking unit, because it's quite hard to differentiate them as well in terms of it was disconnected. The chemistry overall still isn't there between the defensive unit, the midfield unit, and the attacking unit. Now, we've made a lot of signings. We've got a lot of new players on, and yes, we all, and I'm sure all the Forest fans understand, it will take a bit of time for that chemistry to show. But it was clear to see in the friendlies that that chemistry wasn't there until late in the Valencia match where we started to see some link-up play. For me, I don't think we used the friendlies well enough. We should have been putting more of our first strength team, a lot more. I mean, Taylor got so many games in the friendlies, so many minutes. It was weird to see. But coming back to Tuffalo, honestly, I can't say too much about him because I didn't notice him that much in the game. And he was slightly, very slightly out of position for the first goal. He could have been kind of tucked in a bit more to help close down that Shah shot. But overall, I'm just going to give him an even 5. I think just because I didn't notice him. Don't know what you guys in the chat think, but 5 I think is fair for him. So we'll give him a 5. Let's move on to our right wing back in Nico Williams. So Nico Williams probably played a lot better than Tuffalo in my opinion. He was getting forward more so than we were on the left-hand side. Now, it's the natural thing for Forest to attack down the right-hand side. And it's something I was hoping we would avoid this year, where we would have a bit of balance from the left to the right-hand side. But you can clearly still see that there's a lot to be... the natural instinct is to go down the right-hand side. Now, he was up against the brute that was Alan Saint-Maximin, and he had a tough game. And to be fair to him, he was tracking back well, but at the same time, he was trying to get forward. In the first half, he played a lovely ball over the top to Johnson, who was able to get in the channel. Johnson didn't get his head up and have a look for Surridge, who was at the far post. Instead, he tried to cut in. But the ball from Nico was fantastic. Outside of that, he got booked early on as well. So both our right-hand side of the defence was on a yellow card, which was a little worrying, but he didn't let that get to him and he played quite well. Overall, probably a fair 7 out of 10, I think I would give him, because he was a cut above Tuffalo, definitely, and he had the harder wing to defend against in Saint-Maximin. I don't know if the chat agree. Let's have a quick look here. We got some 6s and 7s, some 6.5s. I guess we're not a million miles off. CC Ryder is saying he was the best player for us. I don't think he was far off it, to be honest. Once Solemn is saying best player with a few mistakes as well. He did cause the second goal with the poor pass. That is right from Ignitus as well. Ignitus. But I still think, yes, I'm not going to criticize players on too many mistakes. We've got to remember this is the first game of the season, yeah? Away to Newcastle, who, you know, there's some people talking about them being an outside shot for top 4 with the oil money they've got behind them and everything else like that. Like, I'm a bit deflated because at 1-0, I thought Forest still had a chance. Had we kept it at 1-0 or at 0-0, we were looking good for maybe a counter-attack. But it is what it is. We will learn from it and we will move on. So for me, Nico Williams, a 7 out of 10. Let's move it on into the midfield. And I'm going to start with O'Brien, who I was very, very, very pleased with. I feel like he started off slow, built himself into the match, and then he was the only one in the midfield who did try and drive us forward. There was a chance comes to mind where I think it was Alan Saint-Maximin, got the ball in his own half, started attacking down the left-hand side. O'Brien intercepted it, looks straight up. Joe Linton comes out towards him. He fake kicks round him, lays a beautiful low through ball through the defensive line. Jesse Lingard runs in behind it, shoots across goal. He should have shot near post, but Shah was there to block the shot. But it was the intention that I liked from O'Brien. It was the intention that I saw from him that, you know, really looked good there. And in terms of, and remember, this is his first game. This is his debut game for Forest. He's had a fantastic pre-season and he's come into the squad late in pre-season. He wasn't one of the earlier signings. This guy is going to have a really, really good season for us. But he's going to need a midfield partner who he can build some chemistry with, some understanding, and understand how to play the double pivot. That one goes at the right time while the other holds, or sometimes both will need to go or both will need to hold. It's very important that that balance is got right. So overall, for O'Brien, I don't know how the chat feel, but I think a 7 is a fair number for him. I can't give 8s and 9s today to anyone because of the results and because of the lack of ambition of Forest going forward. But O'Brien did stand out and he did grow into the game. I was disappointed to see him come off and not the next person that we're going to talk about, which is going to be my mate. Where is he? Colback. Now, you guys think I'm going to go in on him. I'm not. I thought he was okay. I thought for his ability and what he can offer the team, he played to that ability and gave us what you would expect him to give us, if that makes sense. However, his ability is not at the level we need. So there's no way you can criticize what he did on the pitch today. I mean, he didn't make any massive glaring errors. Like I said earlier, I would have liked him to have come across and smelt the danger from Shah on the edge of the box with that freaking worldy shot. But outside of that, I'm not going to... And you guys know how I feel about him, and I don't think he's good enough for the squad. My opinion hasn't changed. But if I'm basing my review on him, on what I saw on the pitch today, I can't say he didn't do what he does, because he did. So overall, he played to his level of ability, but his level of ability is not good enough for the Premier League. I would have much rather have seen Mangala start, Colback maybe come on. If it was still 0-0 after 70 minutes or so, that Colback comes on and we put the midfield into a 3. Maybe we could have pulled Lingard off or one of the strikers off, boxed out the midfield and choked him up a little. But to start him in a real physical match like that, for me, just wasn't the right call. I think I'm going to give him just a 6. A straight 6, I think, is a fair number to give him. And I'm not criticizing him for anything. Maybe slight criticism. Could he have smelt the danger on the Shah goal? He made a couple of mistakes in and around the box where he tripped over in one instance, but O'Brien was there to tidy up. But how do you guys in the chat feel? How do you guys in the chat feel about these numbers? How can I give a 7? They're saying to me. Am I serious? I'm looking at it as a progressive number. I'm not going to sit here and give 2s and 3s at all, right? But there's some performances there where you can see potential, and I'm looking at it. If you guys disagree with me, let me know. This is all opinions, and you're welcome to have your own opinion. But I feel I've been very harsh on Colback, and 6, he did what he was meant to do, and that's that for me. Let's move on to our poster boy. Our poster boy, Jesse Lingard. I don't know how you guys in the chat felt about him, but for me, I was disappointed. He had that one opportunity. In fact, he had a shot before that he blazed over the bar. He seems to end up on the edge of the box, shooting on his weaker foot, on his left foot. I don't know if it's the way the ball's coming to him or what have you, but he just wasn't... I don't know if he's still not match sharp, and I don't know if he's still not match fit. Remember, he's had a long layoff in terms of game time. 12 months out of the squad at Man United. A summer transfer window that came late. He's going to need match sharpness and he's going to need time. He wasn't linking the ball between the midfield and the attackers at all. He had probably the best chance we created where O'Brien played that lovely through ball for him. And I think a sharp Jesse Lingard would have shot near post and buried that, maybe 2 or 3 weeks down the line from where we are at the moment. But Jesse Lingard today did not connect the ball. He went missing for long periods, I thought, of the first half and the start of the second half. And when Forest went 1-0 down, he's the kind of player you would want to step up and show that experience, that maturity, and really just get loud and get motivational to those players around him. And he just didn't do that. And I have to be fair in my criticism towards him. And I felt that we will see better games from him is probably the best way to do it. But I want to see him take a leadership role in that attacking third where he's commanding the ball and demanding the ball from the likes of O'Brien, Colback, Mangala, whoever it is. And he's guiding the attackers onto where he's going to play it forward. And that wasn't apparent today. Now, let's get real. This is Newcastle, a fantastic team, yeah? For all the banter we've had with them this week, this has been a game that we've all been worried about. But match fitness is missing. Chemistry is missing. And that drive to want to take the reins from Jesse Lingard, that's something I still want to see. I'm going to give Jesse a 4 out of 10. And I don't think I'm being harsh. And I don't know what you guys think. And I don't want to give TalkSport and West Ham fans the fuel of fire, for it. But at the end of the day, I'm here to represent my view as a Forest fan. And I'm going to give him a 4 out of 10. I feel like he could have scored that goal, but he just wasn't linking the play well enough. So for me, Lingard, a 4 out of 10. Let me know either in the chat or in the comments down below what you think on Lingard. All right, boys, let's move on into the strike force, and let's start with Johnson. You guys know I love him, and he's going to be big this year. And maybe I felt this could have been the game for him. Especially with Newcastle playing high up the pitch. Johnson could have worked into the channels, but it's more so the disconnect from the midfield, from the defense to the midfield and midfield to the attack, that we weren't able to get those triangle plays. I really wanted to see Johnson pulling out wide, Lingard coming into the hole and linking up with Williams and playing the triangles in there. That wasn't happening. And I think the thing that disappointed me was I didn't see the anger. I didn't see the anger from the Forest players or the disappointment from it. For the first 20 minutes, it was, you could argue, a bit rabbit in the headlights for it. And then they grew into the game. And by the 60th minute, we were looking like the start of a team. But then the goal goes in, the second goal goes in, and that's done. And I still didn't see the fire. I didn't see people shouting at each other, demanding better passes. Because our passing was poor throughout the whole game. And you can't really fault the attackers because what will happen when the midfielders aren't feeding the attackers the ball? An attacker's natural instinct is then to come deeper to try and get the ball off the midfield, which then causes a kind of traffic jam in the middle. And, these Premier League players that we're coming up against, you got Bruno, who was commanding that midfield for Newcastle United. He was easily finding the balls and picking them off left and right, finding the likes of St. Maximum or Joe Linton, etc. So, very tough game for Brennan Johnson. Probably a frustrating game for Brennan Johnson. He didn't really have a shot on goal that I can remember. But he had that one chance to get the ball into the back post to Surridge, and he chose to run in. Now, I'm not against him running in and using his pace, especially as he'd got in behind in that right-hand channel. But I think the better option there would have been the cross to Surridge. For me, I'm going to give Johnson a 5 out of 10. And I think that's fair to do. And I love the guy. And it pains me to give such a low rating. But until we get that cohesion between the midfield and the strike force, and they understand the patterns of play and the runs and the overlaps, we are going to struggle if this isn't resolved quickly and that chemistry is found double quick time. So for me, Johnson, 5 out of 10. Let me know if you agree or disagree with that one in the chat or in the comments below if you are watching this later. His strike partner today was Sam Surridge, who is lively but wasteful. And I've said on record before, I think Surridge is probably our cleanest finisher of a football in the team. He may not have the overall all-rounded game that other players do have, but he had, I would argue, 2 pretty guillotine chances to get the ball into the back of the net. One of the headers that came from, I can't remember, I think it was a Tuffalo cross down the left-hand side. You guys will correct me if I'm wrong. He literally headed it into the ground in front of him like he was doing a bloody table tennis serve. It bounced down in the ground and went over the bar completely. And it was a golden chance. He then had another header chance as well, where it was almost like he was cushioning it as the back header towards Pope in goal. He's still not match sharp. That's clear to see. We first saw him back in the Notts County match. So there is still a few weeks. But for me, that then asks the question, should he have started? Because it was clear to see there was a lot of players that were not match sharp and not match fit. And I go back to the preseason. I know a lot of people say preseason is preseason. It's not a reflection of what you're going to see during the league, etc. But it does have a bearing on match sharpness, match fitness, and understanding between new players. And my issue with the preseason was, yes, he was injured, but we didn't see enough of the first team players getting match time. And I feel like almost today was a preseason in terms of allowing these players to try and connect. And I don't think we learnt much more about the attacking force because they didn't have enough of the ball to sustain attack. We really didn't string more than 2 or 3 passes together at any time during the match. At any time. And for me, that was quite frustrating. Surridge had to be clinical with the finishes. We knew going into this game, any chances that could be made had to be clinical. And he wasn't able to convert at least one of those 2 chances. And that was in the first half. That was at 0-0. One of those goes in. It's a whole new complexion on the ball game. It's a whole new way we can play some tactics out. And that's why I feel he needed to be more clinical. I'm going to give him a 5. It's more a 4.5 for me, but I haven't got 0.5 here, so I'm just going to round it up to 5. And I feel like I'm not being harsh on him by doing that. Now, he was the first substitution to be made. He got taken off. Surridge got taken off for Awoni. I can't remember what minute it was. Probably about the 68th minute, something like that. And Awoni came on. Did I even really notice him? Did I even really notice him? No, I didn't. It's still early. It's still early in the day in this season. And I don't want to use that line. Because how long can we use that line for? It's still early days. They still need to gel. That's what preseason is there for. Is there a player in him 100%? Has he been given the preseason time to really understand the system, how it's going to work and everything? Not really. Did he get enough time today to influence the game? No, we were already losing when he came on. And like I was saying earlier, the disconnect between the midfield and the strikers is clear there to see. And you're not going to come on in a situation where you're 1-0 down and suddenly be able to turn it around. You know, that's the kind of a Zidane role in terms of someone who would be able to do that. So he came on and he really just picked up where Surridge left off. And overall, he needs more game time. He needs, but more importantly than that, he needs a goal and he needs time to flourish a partnership with Johnson. What is clear and what is absolutely crying out now is we do not have enough creativity in the front third of the pitch. And again, I'm sorry, but I'm going to go back to it. It's screaming out for a Morgan Gibbs-White or a Houssem Aouara to come into this team and really provide that person who will grab the ball and drive it forward. And it's clear to see that. I'm happy with the defence. I don't think we're going to concede that many. I think we will concede more if we just allow teams to come onto us and really force us back for a sustained amount of times and really build up the pressure against us. That's my worry about the season. But if we can start to get those links into midfield and start to get someone who's got the balls to grab the ball and run with it and then link in the play, we've got a chance. But at the moment, the way we're playing, it feels like we're playing with three different teams: a defense, a midfield, and an attack. And they're all disconnected. And for me, that's the frustrating thing. What do I give Awoni? He was the sub. It's hard to judge his performance. He only got like 20 minutes. You know what? We'll give him. I will put a no, I won't. The decimal doesn't fit in. We're just gonna give him a 4. He was a sub. He didn't do too much on there. I'm not giving him a 4 because it's being harsh. I'm just giving him a 4. He didn't have enough time to influence the game. Okay, so after that, the next sub that was made was one that really did annoy me. And that was O'Brien coming off for Mangala. Now, it wasn't the annoyance that it was O'Brien that that Mangala came on. I wanted to see Mangala start. It was the fact that I thought out of all the midfielders, the one who was really trying to push forward was O'Brien. Maybe he picked up a slight knock. Maybe he was getting a bit tired. Remember, like I said earlier, he was late into this squad. However, I would have liked to have seen that Mangala and O'Brien get themselves 20-25 minutes to work a partnership if they weren't starting in that midfield. I think we still need the likes of Yates in there, and I think Yates will have a very important role to play. So the quicker he can get back to fitness, the better for me. But Mangala came on, and he was kind of running around a lot, but not running around with any purpose or sense. I feel like he was trying to get up to the speed of the game. And by the time he did, the final whistle had blown. So he didn't really get involved one way or the other. I feel that I just don't feel that Cooper yet knows what the right combination is in the middle. Because I've said this in videos before. We've got too many similar players that are being paired together. And we need some diversity in this midfield that would allow some kind of different angles and elements to surprise the opponents. When you're starting with O'Brien and Colback, you're starting with two players who are similar. O'Brien's like a better version of Colback, if you like. And it's going to sit a bit deeper. Their natural instinct is to break the play up. Mangala, for me, would have got the ball and tried to drive it forward. That's his natural game. But once he came onto the pitch, he was behind the pace of the game. We were already losing. And like I said, he just wasn't quite connected with it. I don't really want to give him a score to judge him one way or the other because he didn't get enough game time for me. I think it was only about 10 minutes or so that he got on. I'm sure someone in the chat will correct me. But let's give him a 5 just because he was a substitute. The final guy that then came on and honestly would push for man of the match in terms of he actually came on and showed some desire and some hunger and some real drive to get forward. He really did. He took the ball on and he started running with it. In fact, he was able to get us a free kick in a dangerous position because he had the balls to grab the ball and run forward with it. And I love this guy, and I think he's got a good future ahead of him at Forest. He's still young. He's still not ready for the first team. But it's important that he gets game time and he gets developed. And that the players that are playing in front of him have his attitude towards what he's doing. It's fearless. You've got to play with no fear. There is no point in going to any of these matches and just thinking we're going to sit ourselves back. We'll hit them on the counter-attack. Maybe we win it 1-0. I would rather Forest lost today 4-0 and played progressive football and went for a few chances than lose 2-0 because we sat back. Eventually the wall cracked and you look back at the game in frustration because we didn't really create much. So, for me, Mighton came on and he showed that attitude. He came on for Newcastle. We changed from a back 5 to a back 4. It kind of went 4-2. What did it go here? Let me count the players. Yeah, so it went 4-2-1-3. Johnson went out to the left. Mighton came out onto the right. And Awoni went down the middle. It still wasn't enough. It still wasn't enough. It was too little, too late. Suddenly we were 2-0 down. And The bench looked weak in terms of attacking options that we could bring on outside of Mighton. I mean, I think Taylor was on the bench as well. Outside of Mighton and Taylor, there wasn't any other attacking options. I mean, you could argue Cafu could have come on, maybe for Colback to drive it forward. But Cooper's got a lot of reflecting to do on this game to understand where we were weak. And I think it's clear for all of us to see. It's the disconnect. It's the disconnect between the three units there, and he has to get the cohesiveness. He also needs to get an understanding of who his two central midfielders are, and he needs a plan B and a plan C in terms of formation. If we are defending solidly, I mean, we can't play like that at the City Ground. There's no way we're going to accept that as fans at the City Ground, where we're just going to sit back. The only way we accept it is if we are going to hit them on the counter-attack and actually give it a go. But to sit back that deep and allow Newcastle that much possession and that much freedom in the middle of the park, and then not be able to pass our way out of it, or at least get those balls into the channel, it's just too frustrating. It's too frustrating. So 4-3-3 it was. Yes, it was a 4-3-3. So we did change it into a 4-3-3. But it was too little too late. I'm going to give Mighton a 6. I felt his energy coming on was good. I felt he didn't get much game time, but at least he showed the desire. And all I wanted to see from this game was a desire and a willingness and no fear to attack. And I felt he probably was the one for it who actually personified that. So overall, we'll give him a 6 out of 10. In regards to the manager, Steve Cooper, and his performance, let's talk about it. Now, we love Cooper. I love Cooper. I would do anything for Cooper. Absolutely anything. He has given me more joy in this last year than all the Forest managers over the last 23 years added together, and then doubled and tripled. So it's nothing against him. But what I've said to you guys from the start of the season is we cannot afford sentimentality. And if something's right, we call it out as being good and right. And if something wasn't right, we learn from it, we call it out. We call it out in a respectful manner, and then we move forward and learn from it. For me, the midfield selection, he got wrong. He really did get wrong. And let's be honest, this is Cooper's first outing in the Premier League, yeah? So he is going on a learning curve, and we will go on that learning curve and that journey with him. But he's got to understand that if you're going to play two defensive-minded central midfielders against a quality team like Newcastle, we're going to end up boxed in our own third, and eventually, one will get through. Now, it's unfortunate it had to be a worldie goal that went in. There's not much that could have been done about that. But the reaction after the goal from Cooper was a little bit slow for my liking. I would have liked to have seen Mangala come straight on. Maybe Mighton as well to add the pace up, and Owani for Surridge as well. But from the perspective of a starting lineup, I think that Mangala should have been in there with O'Brien. And I think Owani should have been given the nod ahead of Surridge. Because the chances Surridge got, Owani may have been able to convert them. And the plan B formation needs to be there as well. Maybe we need to be switching into a 4-2-3-1 a bit more regularly. I know we hate that formation from the time of Houghton, because he was religious with that formation. But sometimes having too many defenders forces you into that defensive mindset of doing that. Now, I'm happy with the formation and I know it will work. But at the same time, we've got to be able to adapt into one or two other formations as well, with a 4 at the back. And then not suddenly in the last 10 minutes think, oh, screw it, let's just throw it at the kitchen sink at it. We've got to have plans within plans. What happens if it's 0-0 at half time? What happens if we're 1-0 down, 2-0 down? What happens if we're 1-0 up or 2-0 up? You know, we've got to have those different plans. And he's definitely got them. But has he got the personnel to implement those plans as well? So overall, I'd probably give Cooper as well. I don't know. We lost the game. I think a 5 out of 10. I can't find the Cooper image now. Apologies. But a 5 out of 10 for me for Cooper. And remember the caveat. I love Cooper. But he's going to need to learn as well with the rest of the team as well. Okay? And it's going to be a learning curve. But most importantly, we've got to understand that this is one of the toughest away fixtures we're going to face this season. It really is. And I was really pleased, 55 minutes into the match, I was really pleased with the result. But as me in the chat was saying, you can't sustain this for 90 minutes. And you can't sustain being just pressured in your own half for that long. But having said that, we can't have that disconnect between the three lines. We really can't. So Cooper very quickly needs to understand who his starting 11 is, who's going to play together, and how they're going to just drive that ball forward to make sure that we are attacking. Now, we've got a big game coming up next against West Ham. That's going to be a huge match. It really is. There's the added element of Jesse Lingard, and the whole West Ham thing going through. You got Maxwell Cornet as well, who's obviously now joined West Ham, having been linked with Forest. So I'm sure the West Ham fans are going to want to banter who got the better signing from who, So it's going to be a tense match coming up, and I'm looking forward to it. Do I think Forest can beat West Ham? 100% I do. I really do. At the City Ground. It's going to be our first game back at the City Ground in the Premier League. We as fans are going to be up for it and supporting them. The question is, will the players be ready for it? And will the players feel that passion? And I think they will. If they can play with some passion, some balls, some no fear, we can get one hell of a result against West Ham. West Ham have got Man City tomorrow. They may take a slapping from them and come to the City Ground low on confidence. But we cannot come out of this game feeling dejected or down or anything like that. We've got to look at it as almost an extension of the pre-season and learning from what we saw in this game on how we can improve. So it's really, really important that these takeaways are taken from the team, from the players, from the management, and they have a good debrief, on Monday when they sit down and re-review all this stuff. So those are my thoughts on the team. I hope that makes sense. I'm sure a lot of you agree and disagree with me on some of the player ratings. I know I've not been harsh on some of the numbers, but I am treating it, I'm adding that added impact of it being the first game, the lack of cohesion, the lack of chemistry in there, and the cauldron that is St. James's Park, is a big, tough place to go. So we have to remember that, and that's what I took into account when I was putting all those player ratings together. And of course, I'm only human. I may have got it wrong a little bit here and there, but that's why we have the comment section down below. So please let me know down below how you feel about all the players, or a specific player that maybe you thought played a lot better than I've given him credit for, or maybe a lot worse than you gave him credit for. We'll finish off the video by saying man of the match for me goes to Dean Henderson yet again. And it's starting to worry me a little because I've given Henderson man of the matches more times than I can remember now, even in the friendlies. So I want to make sure that next match against West Ham, it's an outfield player that is, getting that man of the match. Hopefully a striker. If I had to pick an outfield player, for me it would be between Williams and O'Brien, if I'm being honest. And then maybe McKenna I thought was quite solid. But it is what it is. 2-0 on reflection isn't the worst result. There was people bantering saying it's going to be 9, 10, 11-0 against Newcastle. We held our own, but we just didn't show the balls to go forward. So I hope you've enjoyed that. Let me know your thoughts below. If you would be kind enough to leave a like on the video, I would very much appreciate it. And subscribe to the channel if you are new here. Thank you guys for watching. I do appreciate it. We will be back either tomorrow or Monday with a phone-in show for you Forest fans. So we'll have a link in there where you can call in. And I want to get your opinions on the game and see what you thought. We'll give you kind of tonight. Maybe some of you haven't seen the match yet, want to catch it on Match of the Day, etc. I want to rewatch the whole match and get some more analysis done on it. But so make sure you got your notifications on for that, and we'll really enjoy it. But we need a couple more signing, guys. We really do. Thank you for watching, and we will catch you on the next video tomorrow. Come on, you Reds.